Hercule Poirot. I don't think I shall ever forget my first sight of Hercule Poirot. Of course, I got used to him later on, but to begin with, it was a shock, and I think everyone must have felt the same. I don't know what I'd imagined, something rather like Sherlock Holmes, long and lean with a keen, clever face. Of course, I knew he was a foreigner, but I hadn't accepted him to be as foreign as he was, if you know what I mean. मतलब उसने सोचा था कि शेरलॉक होम्स टाइप होगा लीन मीन हरकुल पायरो तो एकदम ही डिफरेंट निकला. When I saw him, I just wanted to laugh. He was like something on the stage or at the pictures. Hmm. To begin with, he wasn't above 5 foot 5. 5 feet 5 इंच का आदमी था.
ये किस आदमी की बात कर रहे हैं?
हरक्यूल पायरो जो डिटेक्टिव है ना.
हाँ, अच्छा अच्छा.
I should think an odd plump old man, quite old, with an enormous moustache. बड़ी सी moustache थी. और ये था. And a head like an egg. बड़ा सा सर था. He looked like a hairdresser in a comic play. मतलब उसके बाल ऐसे थे जैसे कॉमिक प्ले में वाला. हाँ. अच्छा.
आप तो बहुत अच्छे लग रहे हैं. एक बात और है. पता नहीं वैसे छोटे बाल हैं, but very nice and very cute fit. तो थोड़ा स्क्रब और लगा लिया करो.
नहीं माँ. हर मदर को अपना बेटा पसंद होता है.
नहीं बेटे.
अरे मम्मा, I'm not blind. चलो. And this was the man who was going to find out who killed Mrs. Livna. I suppose something of my disgust must have shown in my face, for almost straight away he said to me with a queer kind of twinkle, "You disapprove of me, madam, sir. Remember, the pudding proves itself only when you eat it." मतलब पुडिंग जब खाओगी तब पता लगेगा. तुम मेरी शक्ल देख के मेरे को रिजेक्ट मत करो.
उसने कहा.
हाँ हरक्यूल पायरो ने. The proof of the puddings in the eating, I suppose he meant. Well, that's true enough saying, but I couldn't say I felt much confidence myself. Doctor really brought him out in his car soon after lunch on Sunday, and his first procedure was to ask us all to assemble together. We did so in the dining room, all sitting around the table. Mr. Poirot sat at the head of it with Dr. Leidner on one side and Dr. Rayleigh on the other. ठीक है ना? When we were all assembled, Dr. Leidner cleared his throat and spoke in his gentle, hesitating voice. I dare say you have all heard of M. Hercule Poirot. He was passing through Hassania today, and he has very kindly agreed to break his journey to help us. The Iraq police and Captain Maitland are, I'm sure, doing their very best, but there are circumstances in this case, he floundered, and shot an appealing glance at Dr. Rayleigh. There may, it seems, be difficulties. It's not all square and overboard, no, said the little man at the top of the table. Why, he couldn't even speak English properly. कुछ केसेस हैं कि बहुत ज़्यादा कॉम्प्लेक्स है तो इसमें. Oh, he must be caught, cried Mrs. Mercado. It would be unbearable if he got away. I noticed the little foreigner's eyes rest on her appraisingly. He, who is he, madam? He asked. Why, the murderer, of course. Ah, the murderer, said Hercule Poirot. He spoke as though the murderer was of no consequence at all. Ah, murderer. जिसने खून किया उसको तो पकड़ना ही होगा. मैंने कहा हाँ. We all stared at him. He looked from one face to another. It is likely, I think, he said, that you have none of you have been brought in contact with the case of murder before. There was a general murmur of accent. Hercule Poirot smiled. It is clear, therefore, that you do not understand the ABC of this position. There are unpleasantnesses. मतलब आपको ये clearly पता नहीं है कि क्या क्या है. Yes. There are a lot of unpleasantnesses. To begin with, there is suspicion. पहला तो होता है शक. शक की वो है. Suspicion. It was Miss Johnson who spoke. Mr. Poirot looked at her thoughtfully. At an idea that he regarded her with approval, he looked as though he were thinking, here is a sensible, intelligent person. Yes, mademoiselle, he said. Suspicion. Let us not make bones about it. You're all under suspicion here in this house. Sab pe shak hai. The cook, the houseboy, the scullion, and the potboy, yes. And all the members of the expedition too. Mrs. Mercado started up, her face working. How dare you say such a thing? This is odious, unbearable. Dr. Leidner, you can't sit here and let this man Dr. Ledner said wearily. Please try and be calm, Mary. Mr. Mercado stood up too. His hands were shaking and eyes were bloodshot. I agree, it is an outrage and insult. No, 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 said Dr. Mr. Poirot. I do not insult you. I merely ask you to face the facts. In a house where murder has been committed, every inmate comes in for a certain share of suspicion. हर आदमी पे सस्पेशन होता है जहाँ मर्डर होता है.
उसने वो जो आदमी आया था उसने कहा.
ये हरक्यूल पायरो है ना. I ask you, what evidence is there that the murderer came from outside at all? क्या एविडेंस है कि भाई मर्डरर बाहर से आया? Mrs. Mercado. But of course he did. It stands to reason. Why? She stopped and said more slowly. Anything else would be incredible. और तो कुछ तो बहुत ही incredible होगा. किसी अंदर वाले ने मारा है. You're doubtless correct, madam, said Poirot with a bow. Explain to you only how the matter must be approached. First, I assure myself of the fact that everyone in this room is innocent. After that, I seek the murderer elsewhere. पहले तो मैं ये कहूँगा कि भाई इस रूम के सारे लोग इनोसेंट हो, तभी मैं मर्डरर को बाहर ढूंढूंगा. पर अभी तो मैं ये सोच रहा हूँ कि मर्डरर इसी कमरे में है. Is it not possible that that may be a little late in the day? Asked Father Levigny severely. The tortoise Montpierre overtook the hare. Father Levigny shrugged his shoulders. We're in our hands, he said resignedly. Convince yourself as soon maybe of our innocence in this terrible business. As rapidly as possible, it was my duty to make clear the position to you, so that you may not resent the impotence of my question, any questions that I may have to ask. But Montpierre, the church will set an example. आप तो एक फादर लिविग्नी हो, तो चर्च जो है एग्जाम्पल करेगा, ट्रुथफुल आपकी तरफ से आना चाहिए. Ask any questions you please of me, said Father Levigny gravely. This is the first season out here? Yes. And you arrived when? 3 weeks ago, almost to a day. That is on the 27th of February. 3 हफ्ते पहले मैं आया था, 27th of February को. Coming from the author of Paris Blanks at the car theatre. Thank you, Montpierre. Were you at any time acquainted with Mrs. Ledner before coming here? No, I'd never seen the lady until I met her here. Will you tell me what you were doing at the time of the tragedy? I was working on some cuneiform tablets in my room. फादर लेविग्नी ने कहा मैं तो क्यूनिफॉर्म टैबलेट्स पे काम कर रहा था. हरक्यूल पायरो ने पूछा तो आप ट्रेजेडी के टाइम पे क्या कर रहे थे? I noticed that Poirot had at his elbow a rough plan of the building. That is the room at the southwest corner corresponding to that of Mrs. Ledner on the opposite side. Yes. Southwest corner मतलब Mrs. Ledner का room opposite side पे. Yes. And at what time did you go to the room? Immediately after lunch. I should say at about 20 minutes to 1. And you remained there until when? Just before 3 o'clock, I heard the station wagon come back and I heard a drive off again. And I wondered why and came out to see. 20 minutes to 3 तक वो अंदर रहा. स्टेशन वैगन आई, क्यों स्टेशन वैगन आई, फिर भागी क्यों? मतलब स्टेशन वैगन अंदर आई थी, फिर वो स्टेशन वैगन गई तो उसको लगा ये क्या हुआ, उसको पता नहीं था कि शोर बाहर हो रहा है. During that time you were there, did you leave the room at all? No, not once. मैं उस रूम से बाहर नहीं निकला जब मैं उस रूम में था. ये था मतलब फादर लेविग्नी ने कहा कि मैं उस रूम से बाहर नहीं निकला. And you heard or saw nothing that might have any bearing on the tragedy? No. You have no window giving on the courtyard in your room? No, both the windows give on the countryside. But courtyard की तरफ कोई वो नहीं है. Both the windows जो हैं countryside पे. Could you hear at all what was happening in the courtyard? Not very much. I heard Mr. Emmett passing my room and going up to the roof. He did so once or twice. Can you remember at what time? No, I'm afraid I can't. I was engrossed in my work. You see, मैं काम में busy था. मुझे याद नहीं कि अहमद कब आया और कब ऊपर गया.
ऊपर कहाँ गया?
अहमद आया था ना, वो नीचे काम कर रहा था उस लड़के के साथ और फिर वो ऊपर गया था. There was a pause and Poirot said, can you say or suggest anything at all that might throw light on this business? Did you, for instance, notice anything in the days preceding the murder? Father Lavigny looked slightly uncomfortable. He shot a half questioning look at Dr. Leidner. That is a rather difficult question, Monsieur, he said gravely. If you ask me, I must reply frankly that in my opinion, Mrs. Leidner was clearly in dread of someone or something. मिसेस लाइडना जो थी वो किसी चीज से डर रही थी. She was definitely nervous about strangers. I imagine she had a reason for this nervousness of hers. But I know nothing. वो स्ट्रेंजर से बहुत डरती थी और मिसेस लाइडनर को किसी चीज का डर था. She did not confide in me. उन्होंने कुछ confide नहीं किया. Poirot cleared his throat and consulted some notes that he held in his hand. 2 nights ago, I understand there was a scare of a burglary. Father Levigny replied in the affirmative and retailed the story of the light seen in the Antica room and the subsequent futile search. Do you not, that some unauthorized person was on the premises at that time? I don't know what to think, said Father Levigny frankly. Nothing was taken or disturbed in any way. It might have been one of the houseboys, or a member of the expedition, but in that case, there would be no reason for the person not admitting the fact. भाई उस रूम में 2 रात पहले कुछ बर्गलरी का केस का बात हुई थी, कोई लाइट आई थी, सब लोग वो थे. अब ये था कि फादर लिविंग ने कहना था कि अगर एक्सपेक्टेशन का आदमी तो एडमिट कर लेगा, तो कोई लड़का आके क्या करके गया होगा, कोई चीज ली नहीं गई है. बट इट माइट इक्वली हैव बीन अ स्ट्रेंजर फ्रॉम आउटसाइड. I suppose so. Suppose a stranger had been on the premises, could he have concealed himself successfully during the following day until the afternoon following that? वह कोई अंदर आया, छुप गया और 2 दिन तक छुपा रहा. He asked the question half of Father Levigny and half of Dr. Ledner. Both men considered the question carefully. I hardly think it would be possible, said Dr. Leidner at last with some reluctance. I don't see where he could possibly conceal himself. Do you, Father Levigny? No, I don't. Both men seemed reluctant to put the suggestion aside. Poirot turned to Miss Johnson. And you, mademoiselle, do you consider such a hypothesis feasible? After a moment's thought, Miss Johnson shook her head. No, she said, I don't. Where could anyone hide? The bedrooms are all in use and in any case are sparsely furnished. बंदा कैसे 1.5 दिन तक रहेगा? Bedrooms पूरे occupied हैं, sparsely furnished हैं. The dark room, the drawing office and laboratory were all in use the next day. So were all the rooms. There are no cupboards or corners. Perhaps the servants were in collusion. That is possible but unlikely, said Poirot. He turned once more to Father Levigny. There's another point. The other day, Nurse Lathan here noticed you talking to a man outside. She had previously noted that the same man tried to peer in at one of the windows on the outside. It rather looks as though the man were hanging around the place deliberately.
Yeah.
That is possible, of course, said Father Levigny thoughtfully.
हिंदी बता दो.
मतलब मोटा क्या हुआ, पैरों का कहना था कि भाई देखो क्या आदमी अंदर आया और अंदर 1.5 दिन तक छुपा रहा. तो डॉक्टर लेडनर और डॉक्टर रेली का कहना था ये तो शायद मुश्किल है, क्योंकि फादर लेविग्नी का कहना था क्योंकि सारे रूम्स जो थे वो कह रहे थे ऑक्यूपाइड थे, अगले दिन भी यूज़ हुए और वैसे भी रूम्स में कोई ज़्यादा फर्नीचर नहीं है. फिर ये क्वेश्चन आया कि क्या वो किसी सर्वेंट के साथ कोल्यूशन हो, तो वो पर्यो का कहना था वो अनलाइकली है. फिर वो बोला फादर लेविग्नी से कि आप एक आदमी से बात कर रहे थे, ये जो नर्स है लीथन, जो कि अननोन सा था, है ना. That is possible, of course, said Father Levigny. Did you speak to this man first or did he speak to you? Father Levigny considered for a moment or two. I believe, yes, I'm sure that he spoke to me. Father Levigny ने सोचा हाँ. सबसे पहले उस आदमी ने उससे बात की. What did he say? Father Levigny made an effort of memory.
क्या होता?
He said, I think something to the effect that was this the American expedition guest house. मतलब हरक्यूल पायरो ने कहा कि वो जो आदमी आया था ना, जो फादर लिविंगनी से बात कर रहा था, उसने क्या पूछा? तो उस आदमी ने फादर लिविंगनी से पूछा था, भाई ये क्या वही अमेरिकन एक्सपेडिशन की जो है हाउस है? एंड देन समथिंग एल्स अबाउट द अमेरिकन्स एम्प्लॉइंग अ लॉट ऑफ मेन ऑन द वर्क. और फिर अमेरिकन जो है बहुत सारे लोगों को एम्प्लॉय कर रहे हैं काम पे. I did not understand him very well, but I endeavored to keep up the conversation so as to improve my Arabic. तो फादर लेविगनी का देखो मुझे उसकी ज़्यादा समझ में नहीं आई, क्योंकि वो अरेबिक स्लैंग एक्सेंट मुझे ज़्यादा समझ में, पर मैंने सोचा कि चलो अरेबिक इम्प्रूव हो जाएगी, तो ट्राई किया बात करने की. I thought perhaps that by being a townie he would understand me better than the men on the deck too. ठीक है. Did you converse about anything else? As far as I remember, I said Hanisania was a big town, and we agreed that Baghdad was bigger, and I think he asked whether I was an Armenian or a Syrian Catholic. मैं आर्मीनियन हूँ, सीरियन कैथोलिक हूँ. और कुछ ऐसी बात हुई कि कौन सा शहर सबसे बड़ा है, कि बगदाद बड़ा है कि क्या था, पोयरो नॉर्दर. कैन यू
उस
डिस्क्राइब
आदमी
हिम?
से.
हाँ. Again, Father Livigny frowned at that. He was a rather short man, he said at last, and squarely built. He had a very noticeable squint and was of fair complexion. Squint थी, fair था, short आदमी था और dark complexion था. Mr. Poirot turned to me. Does that agree with the way you would describe him? He asked. Not exactly, I said hesitantly. I should have said he was tall rather than short and very dark complexion. He seemed to me of a rather slender build. I didn't notice any squint. Mr. Poirot gave a despairing shrug of shoulders. It is always so. If you were of the police, how well would you know it? The description of the same man by two different people never does it agree. Every detail is contradicted. I'm fairly sure about the squint. मतलब उस आदमी में squint थी, ये तो मुझे पक्का पता है.
उसने मांगा.
नर्स लेथरन में बी राइट अबाउट अदर पॉइंट्स. नर्स लेथरन हो सकता है दूसरे पॉइंट्स पे सही हो, पर मुझे याद है कि उसकी एक स्क्विंट थी. बाकी हो सकता है वो लंबा रहा हो, पतला दुबला रहा हो सकता है मैंने गलत किया हो. बाय द वे, व्हेन आई सेड फेयर, आई ओनली मेंट फेयर फॉर एन इराकी. मतलब फेयर का मतलब वो इराकी जो जैसे होते हैं ना फेयर, वैसे. आई एक्सपेक्ट नर्स वुड कॉल दैट डार्क. हो सकता है नर्स उसको डार्क ही बोले. वेरी डार्क, आई सेड ऑब्स्टिनेटली. A dirty dark yellow dark. Dirty dark yellow dark था. I saw Dr. Really bite his lip and smile. ऐसे smile किया. Poirot threw up his hand. Parsons, he said, the stranger hanging about, he may be important, he may not. ये बंदा जो hang out कर रहा था हो सकता है important हो सकता है ना हो. At any rate, he must be found. Let us continue our inquiry. He sat for a minute, studying the faces turned towards him round the table. Then, with a quick nod, he singled out Mr. Rita. Come, my friend, he said, let's just have your account of yesterday afternoon. Mr. Rita's pink, plump face flushed scarlet. Me, he said. Yes, you. To begin with, your name and your age. American? Yes. Yes, I come from Chicago. This is the first season? Yes, I'm in charge of photography. Rita जो था photography का था. Ah, yes, and yesterday uh, afternoon, how did you employ yourself? Well, I was in the dark room most of the time. Dark room में था. Most of the time, yeah. I developed some plates first. Afterwards, I was fixing up some objects to the photograph. Outside? Oh no, in the photographic room. The dark room opens out of the photographic room? Yes. So you never came outside the photographic room? No. Did you notice anything that went on in the courtyard? The young man shook his head. I wasn't noticing anything, he explained. I was busy. I heard the car come back, and as soon as I could leave what was I was doing, I came out to see if there was any mail. Then it was then that I heard. And you began your work in the photographic room when? At 10 minutes to 1. Lunch के बाद भी वो भी चला गया था. Were you acquainted with Mrs. Ledner before you joined the expedition? Young man shook his head. No, sir, I never saw her until I actually got here. Can you think of anything, any incident, however small, that might help us? Carl Reiter shook his head. He said helplessly, I guess I don't know anything at all, sir. Mr. Emmett. Mr. Emmett? David Emmett spoke clearly and concisely in his present soft American voice. I was working with the pottery from a quarter to one till quarter to three, overseeing the boy Abdullah, sorting it, and occasionally going up to the roof to help Dr. Ledna. How often did you go up on the roof? 4 times, I think. For how long? Usually for a couple of minutes, not more. But on one occasion, after I had been working over a little over half an hour, I stayed as long as 10 minutes, discussing what to keep and what to fling away. And understand that when you came down, you found the boy had left his place. Yes, I called him angrily and he reappeared from outside the archway. He had gone out to gossip with the others. That was the only time he left his work? Well, I sent him up once or twice to the roof with the pottery, Poirot said gravely. It is hardly necessary to ask you, Mr. Emmett, whether you saw anyone enter or leave Mrs. Ledner's room during that time. Mr. Emmett replied promptly, I saw no one at all. No one even came out into the courtyard during the 2 hours I was working. And to the best of your belief, it was half past one when both you and the boy were absent and the courtyard was empty. It couldn't have been far off at that time, of course. I can't say exactly. Poirot turned to Dr. Rayleigh. That agrees with your estimate of the time of death, Doctor? It does. Mr. Poirot stroked his great curly moustaches. I think we can take it, he said gravely, that Mrs. Ledner met her death during those 10 minutes. ठीक है ना?
क्या बोला?
वो जो 10 मिनट में था ना,
हाँ,
उस